Good morning, dear students. So today we are going to start with the next part of the same chapter, the fundamental unit of life. So let's start. Today we are going to deal with the next topic, which is very important, that is plasma membrane. Now, what is this plasma membrane? Plasma membrane is the outermost covering of the cell that separates contents of the cell from its external environment. The plasma membrane allows or permits the entry and exit of some materials in and out of the cell. It also prevents movement of some other materials. Therefore, it is called as selectively permeable membrane. This you have already studied in class 8 as well. Here you have to study in little detail. Now, what is the composition and structure of plasma membrane? If we see, so basically, plasma membrane is about 7 nm thick and under a light microscope. And chemically, if we analyze, then its cell membrane is 75% phospholipids, proteins, cholesterol, and polysaccharides. However, it is a phospholipid that forms the key elements in the structure of the plasma membrane. In 1972, Singer and Nicholson, it is the name of the scientist, suggested a model called fluid mosaic model to explain the ultrastructure of plasma membrane. According to this model, the membrane is made up of bilayer of phospholipids. Bilayer means two layers of phospholipids. Two types of protein molecules were embedded in the fluid phospholipid layer. First one is intrinsic protein, which completely covers the lipid bilayer, and second one is extrinsic protein, which occur either on the outer surface or inner surface of inner membrane. So we can understand it by seeing the diagram. This is the diagram of fluid mosaic model. In this you can see intrinsic protein situated here, extrinsic is situated here. Now this is the bilayer of phospholipid. The outer end, the round shape, it is known as hydrophilic heads of phospholipid molecule. And this is the hydrophobic tails of phospholipid molecule. So this will form one. It consists of two such layers. That's why it is termed as phospholipid bilayer. Beside that, glycolipid is also present. Clear? Then branching carbohydrate portion of protein which act as antigen. This is also there. So this is the diagram, or this is the model which was given that time and considered or named as fluid mosaic model. Till now it is the most accepted model. Now question comes, what is the role of this protein? The proteins are present not to give any strength to the membrane, but to serve as enzymes, that means catalyst chemical reactions within the membrane. And protein also is helping as a transporter. What else? Pump for active transport, receptor protein for endocytosis. So presence of lipids and proteins provide flexibility to the plasma membrane. This property of flexibility of the plasma membrane helps in endocytosis. We will be understanding what is endocytosis and what is active transport. Now, what are the advantages of the selectively permeability? Selectively permeability of plasma membrane ensures that the useful molecule enter the cell. The metabolic intermediates remain within the cell, and secretions and waste leave the cell. So we will be seeing what are the functions. If we say plasma membrane permits the entry and exit of some material in the cells. Therefore, the plasma membrane is called as selectively permeable membrane. Now we are going to see how the movement of substance takes place in and out of the cell. So in that we have to start with diffusion. Now what is diffusion? Some substances, or we can also say molecules or ions, such as carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, etc., can move across the plasma membrane through a process called diffusion. These substances are of very small size, so they diffuse readily through the phospholipid layer of the plasma membrane. Clear? Now, what is diffusion basically? Diffusion is the spontaneous movement of molecules from a region of a high concentration to one of lower concentration until uniform concentration is finally achieved. You will understand this very clearly with the help of this activity, which is given here. What we have to do in this activity, we are going to take a glass beaker or a glass tumbler half filled with a clean water. Put a few drops of blue ink or any colored fluid into the beaker or tumbler. What do you observe? Does the water in the beaker or tumbler gets uniformly colored throughout at once? You will observe that the ink diffuses into the water gradually until the ink molecules get uniformly distributed in the water. This is a spontaneous movement of a substance from a region of its high concentration to a region where its concentration is low. You can see this thing by the help of this diagram. So until it is not reaching the equilibrium state, it will get mixed with the solution. Clear? Representation of diffusion, which is the movement of molecules or ions from an area of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. Clear? Now, this particular diffusion is very useful, especially in case of amoeba. If we take an example of amoeba, so it is very useful for them because with the help of diffusion only, amoeba is exchanging the gas. Okay. Next is osmosis. What is osmosis? So water also follows the law of diffusion basically. Clear? Water also follows the law of diffusion. So here if we see what is osmosis, then osmosis is the process or is the passage of water from a region of high water concentration through a semi-permeable membrane to a region of low water concentrations. The spontaneous movement of water molecule to a selectively permeable membrane is called osmosis. So here the movement of molecule takes place, but that will be liquid. That means water, solvent. So in that context, if we are talking, then that process is known as osmosis. Now next is types of osmosis. Now what are the two types of osmosis? Endoosmosis and exoosmosis. What is endoosmosis? It is the entry of water molecule into the cells through semi-permeable plasma membrane when surrounded by hypotonic solution. We'll be understanding what is hypotonic solution. Clear? So it is the entry of water molecule into the cell. Inside the cell, water is going inside with the help of semi-permeable membrane when surrounded by hypotonic solution. That is known as endoosmosis. It is taking the water inside. Exoosmosis, second, it is the exit of water molecule from the cells through semi-permeable membrane or plasma membrane when surrounded by hypertonic solution. That means water molecule will leave the cell. That is known as exoosmosis. Now next is direction of osmosis. Direction of osmosis is governed by tonicity of external solution. Clear? It is governed by tonicity of the external solution. Now the external osmotic environment of a cell is called its tonicity. It may be observed under three stages. When an animal cell or plant cell put into a solution of sugar or salt in water, one of the three things could happen depending upon the tonicity of the solution. What will be the cases? First is hypotonic solution. What is this hypotonic solution? If the medium surrounding the cell has a higher water concentration than the cell, meaning that the outside solution is very dilute, the cell will gain water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypotonic solution. Water molecules are free to pass across the cell membrane in both the directions, but more water will come into the cell than will leave. So, cell will swell up. Clear? That means movement of water molecule from higher to lower. That kind of movement is known as osmosis. And in hypotonic solution, the cell is surrounded by higher water concentration. Then what will happen? Cell will swell because the water will move inside the cell and the cell will swell. Next is isotonic solution. if the medium has exactly the same water concentration. Here, that means solute solvent is balanced both the side. As the cell, there will be no net movement of water across the cell membrane. That means movement is there, crossing is there, but the thing is there will be equal amount of going and coming. Here, such a solution is known as an isotonic solution. The cell will stay the same size. There will be no difference because the equal amount is coming and going. Next is hypertonic solution. If the medium has lower concentration of water than the cell, meaning that it is a very concentrated solution, the cell will lose water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypertonic solution. Again, water crosses the cell membrane in both directions, but this time more water leaves the cell than enters it. Therefore, the cell will shrink. In this situation, plant cell is said to be plasmolysed, and in case of animal cell, it should be said, S-A-I-D, okay, said to be cremated. Here, these are the diagrams to representing for effect of each solution. Hypertonic, as we said, it will swell. Isotonic, no effect, cell will remain same. And hypertonic, it will shrink because the water will move outside in the environment or outside in the solution. Clear? So this is the diagram, and this is the diagram of plant cell, effect of different solutions on a plant cell. Next activity, just to understand the same thing, what we have to do in this, osmosis with raisins and apricots. Now what we have to do, put dried raisins and apricots in a pure water and leave them for some time. This you can perform at home also. Then place them into a concentrated solution of sugar or salt. We will place it into that concentrated solution, as you can see. Each grains water and swells when placed in pure water due to endoosmosis. Because of the higher concentration, it will move to lower concentration, endoosmosis will happen. When such swollen raisins are placed in the concentrated solution, each of them loses water and consequently shrinks again due to exoosmosis. Clear? So you can see. Now examples of osmosis, unicellular freshwater organisms. Most plant cells tend to gain water through osmosis. We have already discussed in class 7th and 8th too. Absorption of water by plant root, that is the best example, is an example of osmosis. So here you can see in the diagram, this is endoosmosis, swells, and this is exoosmosis. Next activity, again to understand the same thing, we will be performing with the egg. What we have to do, we will take an hen's egg and remove the eggshell by putting the egg in dilute hydrochloric acid, that is solution. The shell of an egg is made up mainly of calcium bicarbonate. A thick outer skin called shell membrane now encloses the egg. Put this processed egg in pure water and observe after 3 to 5 minutes. You will observe that the egg swells because water enters the egg by osmosis. In another set of experiment, place a similar processed egg in a concentrated salt solution and observe for 5 minutes. You will observe that the egg shrinks. The egg shrinks since water passes out of the egg solution into the salt solution, as the salt solution is more concentrated. Clear? Now next, what is the difference between diffusion and osmosis? So we'll see one by one. Diffusion can occur both in air and liquid. Clear? Osmosis occurs only in liquid medium. So osmosis is a kind of diffusion, we can say. Now, diffusion, it involves movement of molecules, solid, liquid, or gases from the region of their high concentration to the region of their lower concentration. Osmosis, it involves movement of solvent molecule only from the region of their higher concentration to the region of their lower concentration. Clear? Next is here in terms of solvent, but here solid, liquid, and gas 3. Now third one, it can occur without or through a semi-permeable membrane. In case of osmosis, it always takes place through a semi-permeable membrane. Diffusion, it equalizes the concentration of diffusible molecule throughout the medium. In osmosis, it does not equalize the concentration of solvent molecule in the medium involved. Fifth, it is dependent upon the kinetic energy of the molecule of diffusing substance only. Osmosis, though it is the diffusion of solvent molecules only, yet it is influenced by the presence of solutes in the system. Now next is membrane transport. Now what is the meaning of membrane transport? That means how the substances are transferred across the membrane through semi-permeable membrane. So basically, two major methods are given. Okay, we can call it as mediated transport too. Two methods are given. First is passive, second is active. Now, what is this passive transport? The movement of substance through the membrane without the expenditure of energy. It occurs through the diffusion or osmosis. That means, again, with the concentration gradient, the movement will happen from higher to lower. So it is not requiring any kind of energy. It will flow itself. Second is active transport. This type of transport across plasma membrane is rapid and requires the use of energy in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. It usually occurs against the concentration gradient and involves the use of carrier protein. Clear? That means there will be a carrier channel protein which will help to transfer. Glucose, amino acid, and some ions pass through plasma membrane through active transport, because whatever the flow from higher to lower, now we are putting force to that concentration, against that concentration. That's why it is known as active transport, and it requires energy to do this process, and ATP is a form of energy which help to perform this particular transport. Now what is the difference if we see active transport and diffusion? First of all, active transport, it is a rapid process, and diffusion is a slow process. Active transport, it can move materials through a biomembrane against the concentration gradient that we have already discussed, and diffusion, it can move materials across a biomembrane down the concentration gradient from high to low. Third, it takes place in one direction only, and it takes place in diffusion, it takes place in both the direction. Like if inside atmosphere is higher, then it will move out. If outside is higher, then it will move in. Active transport, it needs carrier proteins to occur. In diffusion, it occurs without carrier protein. It does not require any carrier protein. With the membrane only, diffusion is possible. In active transport, it uses energy of ATP. Okay, ATP is a form of energy, and in diffusion, it does not use energy. Active transport, it brings about selective uptake of materials. Diffusion, it allows all transmissible molecules to pass through membranes. Active transport, it leads to accumulation of materials in the cells. Okay? It leads to accumulation of materials in the cells. But in diffusion, it does not accumulate material in the cell, because if it is dependent on the concentration of the material. Next is forms of active transport. Now, what are the different forms or types? They are considered as an active transport only because they all need energy to perform this. Now, what is endocytosis? Endocytosis is the process by which animals engulf food and other substances from external medium by plasma membrane. Depending upon the intake of fluid droplet or solid particles, endocytosis is of two types. So basically, taking of food or other substances inside the cell is known as endocytosis. Clear? Now, two types are pinocytosis. Pinocytosis is also known as podocytosis. Clear? Which in this, simply what happens, it is the non-specific intake of a tiny droplet of extracellular fluid by a cell through the cell membrane, which cannot otherwise pass through it. It is also therefore termed as cell drinking. It is important in the movement of substances, example iron, sugars, amino acids, from one side of a cell to the other. Basically, it is a liquid transfer from outside to inside of the cell. Next is phagocytosis. Its literal means is cell eating. It is intake of solid particles by a cell through cell membrane. Phagocytosis is major feeding method in many unicellular organisms like amoeba. White blood cells engulf cellular debris and uninvited microbes in the blood by phagocytosis. So phagocytosis is helping as a defense mechanism to whatever viruses and bacteria come. They eat those viruses and bacteria. So it is helping in two ways, for transferring the material as well as for eating the cellular debris. Here, now what is the benefit which we are getting by these two phagocytosis and pinocytosis? Obviously, both are helping in order to exchange the molecule. Brings material into the cell by invagination and subsequently formation of a vesicle, and carry segments of cell membranes into the cytoplasm. So that is the benefit or importance of this pinocytosis and phagocytosis. In the diagram, it is clearly visible. You can understand with the diagram. This is of pinocytosis. So what will happen? Extracellular fluid will come, it will form a vesicle, and this spinosome will go inside. Here also extracellular fluid, food particle will come inside the cell, that is known as phagosome. Okay. Next is exocytosis. Now what is exocytosis? The membrane of a vesicle can fuse with the plasma membrane and extrude its contents to the surrounding medium. This process is called cell vomiting or exocytosis. So with that diagram, you can understand basically exocytosis process is responsible for removal of undigested food left in the food vacuole in the cells, secretion of substances such as hormones, enzymes, etc. Then replacement of internalized membrane by the fusion of exocytotic vesicle with the cell membrane. So it simply removes these things from the cell. So this exocytotic cell, whatever things they have to remove, it will come in contact with plasma membrane, then it will rupture and it will remove that particular thing which it has to remove. Okay? That's why it is mentioned as cell vomiting or exocytosis. Next topic, so we are done with the cell membrane. Next topic which we have to start, that is the cell wall. What is the cell wall? Cell wall was first seen in the Koch cell by Robert Hooke in year 1665. Cell wall is present in plant cells, bacteria and fungi. It is an additional protective wall present outside plasma membrane. Cell wall is a thick, non-living, rigid and permeable covering made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a kind of carbohydrate, that is polysaccharide, and it provides structural strength to the plant. Clear? If we talk about other two organisms like fungi and second one, bacteria, then the cell wall is formed of peptidoglycan in case of bacteria and blue-green algae. But in case of fungi, it is made up of chitin or chitin. Okay? Now, what are the functions of cell wall? It maintains the shape of the cells. Second, it protects the cells from mechanical injury and prevents their desiccation, breakage. Third, it provides mechanical support against gravity. It is due to the rigid cell walls that the aerial part of the plants are able to keep erect and expose their leaves to sunlight. Next, it is freely permeable to water and substances in the solution. It has narrow pores called pits through which fine strands of cytoplasm called plasmodesmata are able to pass. These intercellular connections allow exchange of materials between the living cell content. Next is plasmolysis or plasmolysis. What is this plasmolysis? When a living plant cell loses water through osmosis, there is a shrinkage or contraction of the protoplasm away from the cell wall. That means cell membrane will shrink. This phenomena is called plasmolysis. Thus, if a living plant cell is immersed in a concentrated sugar solution, the concentration of water molecule inside the cell will be higher than outside. As a result, water will move by osmosis from the higher water concentration, that is from the inside of the cell, to the lower water concentration, that means outside to the cell. The cell contents will shrink away from the cell wall and it will be plasmolysed. Here spelling error is there. It will be plasmolysed. PLA. Okay, plasmolysed. So please correct it. Now next, one activity is given to make it more clear and to make it understand in a better way what we have to do. Mount a complete Rio leaf in water on a slide and examine cells of a leaf under a high power of a microscope. Note the location of small green granules which represents the chloroplast having chlorophyll pigment. Put a few drops of strong solution of sugar or salt on the mounted leaf on the slide. Wait for a minute so that process of osmosis may occur and water may come out from the leaf cell. You can see the diagram. Again, observe the leaf under the microscope. You will observe that the cell content are separated from the cell wall. That is, space between cell wall and chloroplast containing cell content protoplasm is widened. You can see in the diagram too. These changes can be explained by the fact that outer medium is hypertonic, so water moves out leaf cells to cause plasmolysis. Now place some Rio leaves in boiling water for a few minutes. This kills the cells of a leaf. The mount one boiled leaf on a slide and observe it under the microscope. Put a few drops of strong solution of sugar or salt on the mounted leaf of the slide. Wait for a minute and observe it. Again, in this experiment, you will observe that plasmolysis does not occur. This means that the process of osmosis does not occur in boiled leaf. In other words, it is proved by this experiment that property of selectively permeability exists only in the living plasma membrane. That means if the cell is dead, then this transfer of molecule will stop. Thus, only living cells possess selectively permeable plasma membrane and they are therefore able to absorb water by osmosis. So you can see this is known as plasmolysis. So we are done with the cell membrane as well as cell wall. So go through the chapter. If you have any doubt, you can write and please prepare your notes neat and clean. I'll be giving your assignment in PDF format. So next is difference. What are the differences, children? Cell wall and plasma membrane, though we have covered both the topics, but we have to see what are the differences. So it occurs in plant cells. It is found in both plant and animal cell. Animal cell specification is there, that is peptidoglycan in bacteria and chitin in fungi. Clear? So we can't consider it as a pure animal cell. In some of the insects also, sometimes it is present. Okay, I'm talking about cell wall. Okay, but plasma membrane is always found in both, that is plant and animal cell. Now, cell wall, it lies outside of the cells, but plasma membrane, it lies on the outside of animal cells and inner to the cell wall in the plant cells. Cell wall, it is non-living and quite thick in plant cells, but plasma membrane, it is living and quite thin. Cell wall, it is rigid. Plasma membrane, it is flexible. Cell wall, it is generally permeable. Plasma membrane, it is selectively permeable. That means cell wall allows, it is 100% permeable. Most of the, except few things, otherwise it is permeable. But in plasma membrane, it is selected. It is selected for the few things only. Cell wall, it is formed of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. But plasma membrane, it is formed of lipids, protein and small number of carbohydrates, that is oligosaccharides. Now cell wall, its major function is to provide protection and strength to the cell. Plasma membrane, its major function is to hold cellular contents and control passage of materials in and out of the cell. So we are done with the differences too, and we are done with the topic. So please complete the work. Thanks, happy learning.